We're going to talk about Unit 2, Lesson 2, Accompanied Forces to Motion. There's many types of accompanied forces to motion. Well, forces originated due to motion, and we have inertia and friction. And also, forces causes motion, like forces inside living systems. First, we have the inertia. When we're traveling in a train or any other vehicle, you have noticed, have you continued to move forward when it stops? You just experience inertia. Inertia is the tendency of a body to resist a change in motion or rest. When a vehicle stops, you tend to jerk forward before coming to complete stop. In the same way, you will jerk backward when the vehicle begins to move. So let's see what inertia means. Inertia is a property of an object that has to resist the change of its phase from being rest to motion at a regular speed in a straight line, unless an external force acted on it. For example, the policeman advises drivers to use safety belts in the car. That's because the safety belts work on stopping the forces of inertia to prevent the driver from being injured when a sudden change in motion occurs. Let's move on to friction.
Say a ball is moving on a flat ground and there's no external force acting on it. Will the ball eventually come to a halt? Yes, it will. Have you ever wondered why? Say you're skating on an ice rink and your friend is skating on the road. Whose movement do you think will be smoother? Definitely yours. When you hold a bottle in your hand, why doesn't it just slip through and fall? Sometimes when you're walking around in a mall, do you remember seeing a caution sign to warn you about the floor being wet? What explains all this? The answer is friction. The reason why the ball eventually comes to a halt is because of the force of friction. The reason why skating on an ice rink is easier because the force of friction is lesser there. The bottle doesn't slip through because the force of friction between your hand and the bottle doesn't allow it to do so. If the floor is wet, the friction offered by it reduces and there are chances that you might slip and fall. So what is this friction we're talking about? It's quite easy to understand its concept. Friction is nothing but a force.
Friction forces. They are resistance forces against motion, originate between the object in motion and the medium touching it. The medium could be gaseous medium as air, or solid as the ground, or liquid as water. The relation between the friction forces and the speed of the object is inverse relation. By increasing the friction force, the speed of an object decreases. As we see up here, the movement of a book on the table is like that, in this right direction. But the friction is in the left direction, so it's against the motion. There is benefits and harms for friction. The benefits of the friction is to prevent feet from slipping on roads during walking. Also, it helps in stopping and starting the car motion, as well as it helps in burning of match. That's why the car tires are covered with a very coarse substance to increase its friction between the tires and the road to help the car in starting motion and stopping. The harms of friction, it causes a great loss of mechanical energy because This energy is changed into heat energy. Well, as this heat causes an expansion of these parts and affects their performance. It also causes the erosion of the machine parts and damage them as well. That's why we have to oiling the mechanical machines. Why? Well, to reduce friction between the moving parts of the machine and preventing them from erosion. Let's go to the final force. Forces inside the living system. There are forces inside the living systems that enable living organisms to do their different biological operations. For example, the contraction and relaxation of muscles helps the body organs to move for the movement. And also, liquids transport through pores and the walls of the cell from the lower concentration to higher ones, or vice versa. The heart muscle contraction and relaxation helps the heart to pump blood all over the body organs and vice versa. This is indicated by the heart pulse during the movement of the blood inside the blood vessels. For an example for liquid transportation, please follow this video.
Diffusion is a passive process in which particles move either into or out of the cell from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. The cell doesn't use any energy when this happens. The second category of cell transport is active transport. This is when particles move from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher concentration. When particles move against the concentration gradient, energy is required, often to allow protein pumps to assist in particle movement. Why would the cell need to move particles from a low to high concentration and expend energy to do it? An important example is seen in your heart muscle cells. In order for your heart to beat, there are certain molecules that have to move from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration for those cardiac muscle cells to work.
Another example is rising of water and salts from roots to stem, then to leaf. And this is against the Earth's gravitational force. Well, this is the end of lesson 2. See you next lesson. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.